growing up, yeah. This is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they ain't never had one day. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This one's for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the nerds and the
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Quest the Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, October 29th, 2024, episode number 144? Dave, I feel like it's been forever since we've done like one of our like regular.
It feels like a while, mainly because
weeks.
we're doing so many dailies. Well,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
many
it's
weeks.
been 3 weeks since we had our last guest, John F. Trent, on, editor-in-chief of That Park Place, Stock Car Report, and also host of the Trent Report. We had a fun time talking to him about all things kind of like nerd-related gaming and stuff like that, and in that industry. So go back and give that a listen 3 weeks ago. But before we get into the fun stuff, if you like what you hear today, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars. If you're watching on X, Facebook, YouTube, we appreciate that so much. Spread this word of mouth. Let everyone know this is the greatest show of all time. And just go find this everywhere at the Alex Quest the Show. I want to bring in our guest right away. I do not want to leave him waiting because we are pumped to have him back on the show.
Yes.
He is Adam Coleman, and he's on for the first time on the live stream. We had him on many moons ago when we were just recording and putting it out, but he is an author and founder of Wrong Speak Publishing. What's up, Adam?
How you doing?
We appreciate you jumping on 100%. We're excited to talk to you again. You have done a ton of things since we have talked. You've become, significantly closer with things like Moms for Liberty and stuff like that. And I love seeing what you're doing out there. I want to jump right in first, and I actually want to talk about what you have on right there. XXXY. That's the first thing I want to jump in because you've become a brand ambassador for them. What is XXXY?
Well, as they state, they're the only athletic brand that is in full support of protecting women's sports and making sure that their voices are heard, and they support. I believe it's a team in Nevada right now that is boycotting. There might be some other teams. Because I'm not always like fully up to date.
Yeah.
But
There's too many that's
It's
happening.
hard to be up to date.
Yeah.
But it actually, and that's a good thing, is
Yeah.
because they're standing up for themselves. They're saying it's not right, and that they're not going to participate in it, rather than just taking it and dealing with it and being afraid of being called names and you're this phobic and that phobic. They're actually doing something about it, and I think with them boycotting XXXY is in full support of what they're trying to do. I know Jennifer has reached out to many athletes to show their support because I think it's very important to know that you're not alone whenever you're trying to fight against something that seems like a big thing, and maybe you're not used to fighting. And having someone like Jennifer, who is a fighter, back you up is extremely beneficial.
And there's a lot of bravery that does come with doing this because you're going to get a ton of flack if you are sitting there. And especially we saw, I think it's a San Jose State. We covered it a little while ago.
Yeah, it was
There is
San-
there's the guy being a girl on San Jose State. And there's a lot of teams, and I think Nevada is one of them, but there's been a bunch of volleyball teams, women's volleyball teams that are against this. And there was actually one of her teammates that signed on to a lawsuit that is spearheaded by Riley Gaines and others. And, I just think it's for a great cause because I have 2 young girls. And, and my onus has always been on it should be on the coaches and it should be on the parents to pull their kids from these events. And I do feel like there's a ton of bravery when it comes to being an athlete and a young lady that's going to have to go back into that locker room as they're forced to go in and change with these individuals, going to have to go back to practice while they are sitting there and protesting and trying to stand up for their rights. I think it's something fantastic.
Oh yeah, 100%. And to me, that's why I never make this about trans. To me, it's not about trans. It's about fairness, and it's just unfair. Just common sense. When you have in the Olympics, a middle-aged man who hasn't lifted any weights in quite some time and barely puts any effort, and then he's now all of a sudden a woman, and he breaks every single female record. Like that tells you how significant the difference is biologically between men and women,
Yep.
especially on an athletic level. So the idea of erasing every record, all the achievements, all the hard work, um, simply because someone feels that they are something that they are not, um, you know, I don't think that's fair. It's one thing if you want to live your life a particular way, live your life a particular way. But when it interrupts someone else's life, then that's when we have a right to question that behavior.
Yeah. And it's like ridiculous that we got to this point. I highlighted right here under our story in XXXY. It is simply undeniable that sex matters, especially in sport. That's just a normal sentence. That's a sentence most people knew a while ago to
Yep.
just be undeniably true. And there are many things thrown around, like right now in the gaming space. The term toxic positivity is a thing, which I think is one of the things that affects this and why we just allow these things to happen.
Right.
Another like toxic empathy or maybe too much, like however you want to put it. There's multiple reasons why we're allowing this to happen, why it's been allowed to happen so much. And it's good to stand up and say no, there's an objective reality here, there is a truth here, and we have to lay our ground where fairness stands on this subject.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Mhm.
We have to because and I've talked about like I think it's the fear of being canceled is greater than the likeliness of being canceled.
Yes.
Yes.
And I learned that firsthand, when I wrote my book.
Hmm.
I was like, I don't know how people are going to receive this.
Yes.
I didn't tell my job. I didn't know if people were going to fire me. If my job was going to fire me. I
Yes.
didn't know if I was going to lose family.
Hmm.
And even the people who disagreed with me, they were like, "We're proud of you."
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
my,
Yeah.
it's when you leave the online bubble where everyone's outraged and really not outraged, but fake outraged,
Yeah.
Hmm.
where
Virtue
they have
signaling.
virtue signaling and they live purposeless lives. And then you catch that one horror story where someone does lose their job.
Yeah.
All it takes is that one story to make people say, you know what? I don't want that to be me. I got kids. I got this. I don't want to risk it. But the risk is not as bad as people think. And I've done it in my life. Um, and I've received nothing but great things because I
Yes.
decided to speak up.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people afraid of being canceled, but you really hit on something there. I think more people are afraid of losing family. Not
Yeah.
not the
Mhm.
cancellation, but losing family, like you said, losing your job, losing these things that are directly tethered to you, that are so important to you that you don't
Yeah.
want to lose. Because people on the internet, yeah, there's going to be pressure and everything, and that could be annoying. It could really get to you. But there's a difference from that and then losing actual personal private relationships that have been building for years and years and years, sometimes your whole life.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that is true, but
Mhm.
the thing I will say is if you're just being common sense,
Yes.
right? The vast majority of Americans are relatively common sense oriented. There's
Mhm.
just certain things
yeah.
that, aren't controversial outside of the internet. Like it is not like if you went to someone, just a random person, I'm in Jersey, random person off the street in
Hey,
Jersey and say,
Jersey.
"Excuse me, who is stronger on average, men or women?" They're like, "Men."
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. You're like, it's not. This isn't a controversial
exactly.
No, not
take.
at all.
Exactly.
No,
Right.
it's not controversial. It's something that has been common sense for a long time, and it's
Right.
something that um individuals want to use this for political gain in a lot of ways, and they're trying to conflate what's going on to create confusion, to create revolution, and there's constant revolution, right? And the issue is, like you said, you try not to make this about a trans thing because they are just the next group that is being used
Yes.
in order to further an ideology, right? Because for a
Right.
while it was women, and then after women it was gay people, and after gay people it was now bi and trans, and you're a black man. It has always been black people kind of thrown in there as well, and Latino
Mhm.
people, and whatever they can use as like the minority or the held down group
And they
is
started
what.
intersecting.
And they started
Right.
intersectionality, and it's like whatever they can latch onto. And when you break out of that fact that they don't have any power over you and they're not trying to help you, is
Mhm.
when you can kind of see things clearly. And I think it's sad that they're creating this into being a fad as kids, right? Because right now, kids are just being inundated with this information. They get love bombed constantly, these gay straight alliances and things like that. And you're taking a bunch of individuals who their day is ruined because they get a zit. But now you're telling them that they can
Mhm.
make these big life changing decisions. And it's absolutely sad that they now have to get thrown into the middle of stuff like this.
Yeah, it is. And I'm gonna say something controversial. Uh, this time I'm gonna say something controversial, which actually really shouldn't be controversial. I think much of this stuff wouldn't be nearly as bad if we had more involved parents, um,
100%.
and they just talk to their kids and let them know what's going on. Um, Call me crazy, but I think parents are far more influential in a child's life than some Tumblr account. And if that Tumblr account is more influential to your child than you, then you've been slacking,
100%.
because that should never be the case. When my son is 19 now, but 2020 came, when I think 2020 he was entering high school or his first year of high school. Um, and we just had these conversations, and we talked about these things, and we watched different videos, and I never told my son what to think. So this isn't like I believe this or you must believe this kind of thing. I just showed him stuff and we just talked about it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just like how I do everybody else. And he's very much so like myself, just in general. Like he's analytical, he thinks deeply about it, he tries to make sense of it. So we just discuss these things. But I said, if you see these types of things, you need to tell me. And so he's aware. And there was a couple times when he was in high school, he saw some stuff. One in particular, a consulting firm, whatever you want to call it,
Of course.
consulting firm
Of course
Of
it's
course,
came
yeah.
to
consulting.
his school and didn't tell the parents that these people were coming, and asking them what's their sexual orientation, what do they want to identify as, what race are they, like asking. I was like, who are these people and why are they talking to our kids?
So you want to hear some crazy stuff? In my school
Yeah.
system, I heard that one of the parents, obviously not going to disclose anything, but they told me that their third grade daughter, on the first day of school, when she walked in, the teacher asked her how she identifies. Third grade.
Right. Right.
And that's the problem there. And the thing is, it's not like it used to be where it was like sex ed. This is what we're going to talk about. If you want to opt out of it, you can as parents, right? And that's
Right.
still typically a choice. Now it's there is no opting out. Here's a survey for your child to answer. And your kid's going, well, the teacher handed it to me, so I should probably do it. And they're trying to gather this information on these kids and they're confusing the crap out of them. And, it's again, like I said, I might feel bad for so many of these kids to be caught in the middle of this stuff.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
do want to bring this up real quick, just a real quick bite of this, because this is a survey of landmark 15-year study about trans being a phase. And what I need people to understand is that most things that kids go through when they're growing up are phases. That's why you
Yeah.
don't do anything that's permanent to a kid before they get to a point where they can actually make that choice off of understanding what they're going to do for the rest of their life. Most of
Right.
the things that kids go through are phases. Whether they like something for loving dinosaurs for like years, and
Yeah.
then they fall off it. Yeah, they still like them when they're older, but they're not like obsessed as they used to be.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah.
same thing. There's phases all the time through childhood, through middle school and high school, but you can't just make a permanent decision off of that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. My son called himself Batman, for a couple
Well,
years.
have you seen him and Batman in the room at the same time, though, Adam?
I have not.
Well,
I have
I
not.
mean, we don't know then. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now it explains all those nights he went missing.
There you go.
Exactly.
All right. So, in terms of also with XXXY,
Yeah, I did
what-
want to say.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Right here highlighted, we're not out to make okay products for the parallel economy. We are here to make clothes that are of the finest quality, the very best fits and fabrics and styles that you'll not only be proud to wear, but love wearing. And I like hearing that, because there is something to be said about wanting to buy from a brand that doesn't hate you. Not that it loves you, but it doesn't hate you. But it's also another thing to be said to buy from a brand that actually going to give you a quality product.
And I do say this is something that I've complained about a million
They have
times.
a very good model here, by the way.
Yeah, he's a stud. Look at that guy. But I've complained a million times that when conservatives or people on the right make things, it's like patriot this and American that, and it's conservative, and it's so you're now automatically, because, which is crazy, that patriot, that type of stuff like is associated with the right, but it is. So now you're alienating half of your potential buyer base. Where this right here, like they're saying, we're just trying to make good products that anyone can wear. Obviously, there's a stance you're taking here, but I'd imagine Jennifer was banking on that 90% of the people would agree with her. And when you get one person that's willing to rock this at their kid's game, that next person might go, I agree with you. What is that? You know what I mean? So, yeah, Jennifer says she's awesome. She's a bucket list person we need to get on the show, because Jennifer's freaking awesome and a great follow on X. But so what exactly would you say is the overall overarching mission of what XXXY is trying to accomplish?
I mean, I don't want to speak for Jennifer, but I think
Maybe
the
what you
mission
can see, in
is,
your opinion.
in my opinion, one, I think the number one thing is to make quality products.
Yeah.
You know, I obviously I'm wearing a shirt here.
Yeah.
I have a pullover. It was a fleece pullover. My wife has the like the workout pants, like the yoga pants. In different shirts and stuff like that. I remember the first time I put the shirt on, I was like, this is nice. Like, everybody's wearing like cheap cotton t-shirts, and it's just whatever. You just wore it because it has something on. But like this, I've worn it when I'm working out. I wear it to different places. You can tell just by putting your fingers on it and touching it. It's a quality product, and all the products are like that. Even the water bottle. It's a tin water bottle, but it's nice.
Water bottle.
It's well crafted and everything. Like, everything about all the products that I've ever seen, the hats, everything, well made. So it's not, maybe in the beginning someone's like, yeah, I support the cause, and they buy something. But every person I talk to that's bought a product, they're like, I really like it. And so when the next line comes out, they're more likely to purchase the next line. So and same thing for me. When more stuff is coming out, I think more stuff is coming out for men. If not now, soon. They just actually announced they have hoodies that are coming out for the fall line. So
Go see if we could shop some stuff, Dave. Go get shopping.
I'm in new arrivals right now. I was pulling it up. Don't worry. They have some beanies with a palm. Appreciate that.
Make sure you use my referral.
Yep, here it is right there. It's
That's right. /Adam.
www.xx-athletics.com/Adam. Absolutely go use that. Support Adam as well as much as supporting XXXY. And I absolutely need to go snag myself some of this stuff. Because it is good looking stuff. And listen, have you ever played ice golf, Dave?
No, I have not.
Neither have I, but it seems freaking awesome. But it's absolutely something that's important. And here's the thing, it also comes with the bravery side though, too, right? Because you wear this out to your daughter's game, you might get some side eyes, you might get some issues. We saw that one team of parents where they had XX on their sleeves, and I think it was like a whole group of parents were banned from that game and not allowed at sidelines. So you might take flack for making a proper stand, but this is absolutely a hill to die on. You always hear like, oh, there's not the hill. This is a hill to die on. because we need to make sure that we are protecting our young girls, protecting our women.
We are hurting
from-
Nate, though.
Nate with the
We
bets.
are hurting Nate.
We are hurting Nate.
And he also said send
Tim
Tim
Pool-
Pool beanie.
Send Tim Pool a beanie. You should send Tim Pool a beanie, Adam.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he would wear it. He would definitely wear it a few episodes. Oh my god. All right, but so we appreciate everything that XXXY is doing there. I think it's awesome stuff. I'm gonna have to go buy myself some stuff. Definitely use Adam's code there. Adam, what is there a discount that's affiliated with using your code?
Not as of right now.
Okay.
Not as of right now.
Jennifer, get on that. But anyway, so let's
I like
jump
these
in.
socks.
What's
Sorry,
up?
go ahead. Keep going. I like
I like the hat. I'm a hat guy, so I might
Yeah.
actually go for that hat. Anyway,
have a woman on it.
that's okay. Anyway, so
okay.
let's jump into our next topic here. I want to talk about the hot button issue. We are only now, 7 days away? It's Tuesday. We're 7 days away from election day. And it has been, an election for the ages, I guess, is one way to put it, because it's been absolutely crazy. So, Adam, I'm going to give you the floor for a little bit. What have been your overall thoughts on both candidates, the campaigns they've ran, and everything like that?
So we'll start with Trump because Trump is Trump. Trump is running basically the same type of campaign that he's always run, which can be a good and bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think last election was a referendum on Trump. This election is a referendum on Kamala Harris, but in connection with Joe Biden.
Yeah.
So Trump doesn't have to do as much, which is why last election, Joe Biden just hid in his basement, didn't campaign, because it was really about, do you want this guy again or not? That was basically the sell.
Yeah.
And so this time around, the referendum is on Kamala Harris, and she can say turn the page as much as she wants, but I mean, when you turn the page with Kamala Harris, you end up on the same page. Like I don't.
It's just copy and paste. That's
Right,
all.
you just-
This page, for some reason, laughs all the time, and it's weird.
Right. Yes.
Instead of
exactly.
whispers. And the other one whispers, this one cackles.
Exactly. So yeah, as far as Trump goes, Trump is Trump. If you love him, you love him. If you hate him, you hate him. Nothing changes as far as that. For the independents, because honestly, this is more so about the independents, just like any other election.
Yes.
But this one is even more fascinating for me because of the strategy of the Democrats, which I don't know if they're strategically trying to be condescending and piss off men, or if they're just condescending and they just
I think they're just stuck in that
piss off
mode.
men.
Yeah, I think they're just stuck in that mode. They can't get out of it.
Yeah. But I'm working on a piece for the New York Post. And I was looking up some stats. As far as independents, men are more likely to be independents. As far as registered voters, more men are likely to be registered voters for Republicans than Democrats. And then I started looking at, I think this is from 2 days ago, the polling from the swing states. And you're looking anywhere from Donald Trump, when it comes to men, 52% of men, all the way up to 60% of men going towards Donald Trump in these swing states. And the 60% was for North Carolina. The 52 was Pennsylvania. So there's something there. And actually, I think when you look at something like that and then you combine it with the messaging, because Trump isn't being antagonistic towards women. He's not saying, you can't be with me if you're this and that. And the only argument that they try to make about Trump, which I think is a false argument, is he's trying to take away your reproductive rights, which actually isn't true.
No, it's
He's
not true.
one of the ones on the right. His biggest criticism is he hasn't been strong enough on abortion. Right.
Exactly. There will be a day when people finally realize that Donald Trump is essentially 2008 Barack Obama.
Yeah,
He might be one of the most states' rights presidents we've ever had, though, because again, one of his big criticisms of COVID was his hand wasn't heavy enough in terms of a lot of things that he did. He let states kind of do what they want. And you saw
Yeah.
Cuomo and Governor Wolf kill a bunch of old people because of it. And, and that's honestly might be one of his biggest criticisms and his biggest strengths is he fully believes that there's some things that belong in the state and that the federal government shouldn't touch.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so that's for anyone who doesn't pay attention to Donald Trump and pay attention to politics, and all they get is a daily dose of mainstream media, um, who believes that Trump wants to abolish abortion access and blah blah blah, which I would personally love selfishly, but he's not that politically
he's not that
speaking.
guy.
No.
Politically speaking, it's not a good strategy to be to want to get rid of abortion altogether. Like if that's the hill you're dying on politically, it just doesn't work. Which is why when Roe v. Wade got overturned and they ran with that narrative, that actually hurt him more so than it helped him.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this is less about Trump and this is more about the Democrats and Kamala Harris. And I do think that they've been incredibly antagonistic towards men over the past few weeks, especially. But basically, from the very beginning, once Kamala Harris became the one,
Became anointed.
became anointed, not voted for.
Nope.
The message was very clear as far as if you don't get behind her, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And if you're a man and you refuse to get behind her, you ask questions as to why you support her, well, then you're making her jump through hoops to prove that she is this and that. Well, yeah, we make every candidate jump through hoops to prove that.
Joe Rogan's
are
making her
for her.
hoops to get on the interview, apparently.
Yeah.
He should go to her now.
He just announced again, Joe Rogan, like, hey, I want to get this done.
It's
Let's
so
do
bad.
it. So yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. So go ahead, Adam, keep going. I like where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's one of the key themes that keeps coming up. When she was falling short, and when I say falling short, we have to keep this relatively speaking. The Democrats are so entitled to have black people vote for them that when they lose 5%, they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Right. But I strongly believe if she loses, they're going to blame black men. Just keep that in mind.
You're already
Well,
blaming black
Barack
men.
Obama already told
Yeah.
black men that they
Already
need to
finger
get out there
black
better.
men.
And
Right.
it's been an ongoing campaign, and basically, like you said, a really condescending tone against specifically black men. Like, hey, why aren't you guys doing this? What what you're supposed to do, and you're not doing it, type of thing. And it's very much like kind of putting the boot down on black men and saying like essentially what Biden said: you ain't black unless you're voting for Kamala. Like, it's
Right.
pretty wild the way that they just not take for granted, but treat that demographic and that voting block.
Yeah. And I will say this, what's been very fascinating, this is the most people, well, let me rephrase that. This is the most black people that I've seen publicly say, I ain't messing with her. I don't trust her. The Democrats ain't giving us nothing. Like, I'm actually like quite shocked as to, and not just like, oh, I see it on Twitter. I mean, like, I go in the comments for like when she did the Shade Room, which is, predominantly black audience.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the Shade Room and I'm like, there are no positive comments. No positive comments. No one was impressed by her. Everybody was mocking her. And then Club Shay Shay, when she went on there, same difference. I'm just like, this is wild, because in the past they would have just pretended that like Joe Biden is amazing. He's going to save democracy. No one feels that way when it comes to Kamala Harris. No one. and it's such a hard sell. You see people. I remember when the Democratic National Convention was happening, there was a video that was circulating where people were saying, are you in support of Kamala Harris? They're like, yeah. And so why are you in support of her? Well,
They're really
like they
for that one. Yeah.
They're struggling. They couldn't tell you exactly why. they just gave you some sort of platitudes. Well, I think it's time for
Mhm.
a change, and so you have no idea
And the
what.
fact that she is the change candidate is also insane to look at Kamala Harris as a change candidate, a woman who has been in office as the VP for 4 years, a woman who has been very much voting on the left her whole time as a senator. And it's like there is no change that you're going to get. It might actually get worse. It'll go further left if you look at her track record as AG and things like that over in California. Like it's not going to get much better. If you're looking to solve crime, and I'm not just talking about like inner city crime, like any crime whatsoever, you're not going to get it from her. If you're looking to have a stronger border, you're certainly not going to get it from her. Like anything that's going to affect every single person, that is a universal thing, she has shown to be a failure on. And I think that's a huge issue. And you see the way she answers questions when she's getting softball layup questions from Anderson Cooper, trying to goad her and give her easy answers. She cannot take them. She's incapable. When he asks her, have you ever made a mistake in your professional or personal life? Like, it's not even like he asked her to talk about something she did wrong as an AG or as a vice president or a senator. He kind of asked her, was like, did you ever once burn apple pie? Like,
Yeah, no, you could have said, "Oh, I kept the fries too long in the McDonald's fryer." Double down on that. At least make it look like you worked there, because no one fucking believes it.
I invented the chicken Big Mac. I put a McChicken on a Big Mac instead. Like she could have went that route and told her. But it's like it's hard for anybody to shill for her because she makes it impossible. And anyone that is shilling for her, everyone just kind of points and looks at like you're an idiot. Like you just look and it's like, listen, you can just admit you're voting Democrat because you hate the Republicans and hate Donald Trump. Respect, right? We respect you for doing that, but no respect for trying to sit there and be like, hey, this woman has something. She has nothing. She has nothing at all.
Listen, I've made it very, very, very known that around 2020 was when I completely defected from the Democratic Party. And I said,
Congratulations.
I'm, I'm not associating with the Democrats until they gain some sort of sanity, because they lost the plot completely.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I'm an independent. I just voted for Trump. This is the second time I voted Republican.
But Trump isn't a typical Republican either. So
He
it's
is
not
not.
like you're voting for this hardcore down the line conservative. Like I feel like the populist conservatives is the new way to go. So it's like the populist conservatives at least give these independents a home because they're not so hardcore.
We
With-
were wrong. As Nate brings up, she does have brat and vibes. So we were wrong. Nate has a point there.
Nate has a very good point. So, I feel like for someone like you who is more independent, maybe leans a little more right on some of your things, but not fully in that camp, the populist movement, the MAGA movement, essentially, that Trump has brought, gives you at least a little more, okay, I'm voting Republican, but I'm not biting my tongue doing it. It's okay to vote Republican right now. They're not as insane as the left for at least certain candidates.
Well, yeah, and also I hate when people deny that there hasn't been a political shift. Like, it's so obvious that if you've been paying attention to politics for 15 years, you can see there's a vast difference. One of these days, when I have some time, I'm gonna put it up on Twitter. But go back and look at Barack Obama when he was running for office in 2008. He sounds like Trump. Matter of fact, Trump sounds more progressive than Barack Obama.
Yes.
Back then, Barack Obama wasn't for gay marriage. Neither was Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
So, like,
but here's the difference. I will say, from being a political person my whole life.
Yeah.
Whenever Democrats are running for president, they come to the middle and to the right, and then once they get in, they go back to the left. They start making their policy. They start making their positions, and this has been typical of more, Republicans will kind of go a little more left, but they can't lose their evangelical. So they'll kind of stay a little more right of center than normal. Where Democrats understood always, they will have the far left on their side. The communists have no one else to vote for. The Marxists have no one else to vote for. So that small pocket is always going to vote for them. And then they really come into the middle. And this has always been the strategy. Because I remember when Obama was running, you had people like your Glenn Becks and your sleuths on the conservative radio, Rush Limbaugh, talking about, hey, this guy is a snake.
Bill Ayers.
He is
and all
a,
that.
Bill Ayers, Jeremiah Wright, all
Mhm.
the things they were talking about for him being very much a leftist and saying,
Mhm.
don't trust the rhetoric. So that might be my only pushback with talking about Obama and Hillary. They always run to the right when it comes to the general. And you need to listen to their primary, because their primary is what they're going to do,
Mhm.
not their general.
And I do want to say real quick, not because you don't have to bring it back to Obama being against gay marriage when he was running, the same as Hillary. Just look at the shirt you're wearing, Adam. Like you said, you can go out to a person on the street
True.
and say, who is generally stronger, men or women? They can answer that. And then you say, well, why can't there's a person that was interviewed for the Supreme Court say something in that tone? Why can't our politicians on the left say that right now? Why is that such an issue? It's an obvious political shift.
And I think it's more hilarious that, Adam, you could probably get Caitlyn Jenner in that shirt quicker than you can get a leftist to admit there's two genders. Like if you called up Caitlyn Jenner and was like, can you be an ambassador for this? Which Caitlyn has come out outspoken and said there should be no men in women's sports. That has been something that they've been on the record saying. So it is pretty crazy that we have someone who, remember when Caitlyn was a darling of the left because they came out and they were trans. And now because Caitlyn is, like, I might be trans, but I still have more conservative beliefs.
Woman of the Year. Remember
that was
Caitlyn got woman. There was the first time that happened. Caitlyn Jenner got Woman of the Year.
So I want to see Nate's comment right here. All the best faith Dems have come to the Trump side. The best left reporters like Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald end up arguing for him against the insane left. And that's the thing. In that whole entire, there's always that meme of, it's like, I didn't become conservative. The left just went further left. And I feel, Adam, that's also too, and I looked it up. We talked on October 6th, 2022. So almost 2 years to the day.
Oh, wow.
We talked on the last show. And I feel like that's exactly where you were and still where you kind of sit, is you're not necessarily a conservative, but the conservatives don't sit there and they allow you to speak your mind. They allow you, you have some assholes that come out there and are very insane, but that's the internet, right? But for the most part, me and you could disagree on some policy things and some kind of more conservative things, but I'm not going to hate you and I'm going to let you speak. And we might have some debate and some dialogue, but in the end, I'm going to be like, hey, Adam, next time I'm in Jersey, we can have a beer. And you're going to be like, okay. Like, cause that's kind of typically the way the right has always been. So, you talked about the shift. What else do you believe has come with that shift with Trump and with the right?
What else has come with that shift? Well, I mean, and actually, if I was to actually change a word, maybe it's not even a shift, it's a realignment.
That I think 100% agree with that.
When you see the Democrats, including Kamala Harris, highlighting and finding it a moment of pride that Dick Cheney supports her. I'm like,
Hitler before Trump. That was Hitler before Trump. 20 years ago, Dick Cheney was Hitler.
Yeah, one of them.
Right.
Hitler.
Right. And then it was like, thank you so much. And they think this is bipartisan support for Kamala Harris. And I was like, you cannot tell me that there hasn't been a realignment. Like,
no, there hasn't.
This makes zero sense. And it's because everything has changed. Everything has changed. So the reason, like, Matt Taibbi, who's traditionally on the left, is like, I don't know, these people, one, who are a little bit to the right of me, seem to be more sane than the people that I thought used to be sane and just completely lost their minds. And the left became far more radical. And to be honest with you, I think the extremes have become more extreme too.
Yes.
But I think the major difference, because like you'll get people, because I tell people I'm independent. They're like, how come you don't criticize the right and the extremists on the right? And my answer is, well, because the extremists on the right aren't running our schools. They're not predominantly in our government. They're not in all these institutions. They're not in our universities. Like, I don't know.
You can ignore them.
Not even ignore. It's just you don't. Well, real quick, because like all their arguments that come from the extreme right have already been beaten and broken down before. Like all these arguments that they're making are arguments that have been made in the past that actually like classical liberals have already kind of torn apart in the first place. So like while these may be gaining traction because people become disaffected from the radical left, you could just, these are not hard arguments to really diffuse most of the time. And actually you can get them to spurg out if you debate them. But like you said, the radical left have all of the positions of power and they have all of the levers that they need to pull in order to affect you and your daily life.
Yep.
So I want to shift gears a little bit, Adam, because I want to go in the Wayback Machine real quick. I want to talk about during the time where the Republican primary was going on, because I don't think we talk enough about how the right was almost ripped in half, at least on the Twitterverse, right? Because you had the DeSantis camp, which I think was actually trying to get Trump to win, because the DeSantis people on X were some of the worst in the campaign that I've seen. The way that they just attacked potential voters and people they needed on their side. But it wasn't much better from the Trump side and the Trump people on X, which they were a little more brash. And something I was seeing was kind of this fractioning that, I was sitting there trying to be like, I remember going in, Davis see me being like, hey, talk about who you want, but stop bashing DeSantis people because Trump's going to win, but we're going to need them. And I think, fortunately, we've seen enough cooler heads prevail. And all those people that were voting for DeSantis, for the most part, have come over to the Trump camp and their vote's going to be solid, right? Was there a time, though, when you were looking at the things going on and some of the shit the people on the Trump side were saying, and even DeSantis side, and was kind of shaking your head going, this might end poorly for the Republican Party?
I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because if you go back and you think about Hillary Clinton and the Bernie Bros and that whole thing. At the end of the day, were you going to vote for Hillary or were you going to vote for Trump?
Yep.
That's what it came down to.
Yep.
And so did some people take offense and sit at home and sit on their hands? Maybe. Did some of those Bernie Bros go and vote for Trump because of it? I think so. I think there might have been some. So maybe there was a little bit of residual effect. Yeah. But I think that the Democrats voted for the Democrats at the end of the day. Yeah. So I wasn't really worried about this, especially in the Twitterverse. Like,
it's not real life.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was at 5%. 5% of the United States uses Twitter. So
yeah, it's not a lot.
And it looked much bigger when the bots were more prevalent too. Like you would think that there was much more. And now that we found out it's like 80% bots, like okay.
A lot of fun.
So there's still a ton. And listen, I don't think you're ever going to get rid of the bots because they're so easy to make, but there is more of a fight back against them. Yeah. So now we found out, no, it's more of, I think it's more of you're seeing who on the political side kind of expose themselves. Sometimes in terms of things where they speak out of turn or they say some outrageous shit.
We're going to dead name it. I don't care.
Twitter, Matt, Twitter. Anyway, but, I think it was kind of, and you saw some people maybe get really hurt in that sense where they might not have future jobs in certain places because of the things that they were saying. Where were you in terms of, were you getting involved in any of the fricas and stuff going on X, or were you just kind of sitting it out and observing and watching and kind of possibly baiting people?
So I will say this. Everything that I do on X is for a purpose. It's been like 0.1% of the time, it's been, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't think that one all the way through. The rest of the time, I think about the exact words that I use. Is there a point for me saying this? Should I even say anything? Should I just keep scrolling? I think very, very consciously about stuff like this. So when it came to the DeSantis and Trump stuff, one, I wrote an article for the New York Post saying, thanks, Trump, but I think it's time for somebody else. And I was more so saying that I think DeSantis is the guy.
Yeah.
Right? You're up there in age. We appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
But I think DeSantis is the guy. And just leave it as that. It wasn't a disrespectful. Yeah. It wasn't anything like that. I said my piece.
Which is fair. Which at the time, especially where DeSantis, the momentum was and what he was looking at, like that was a fair assessment that I think a lot of Republicans and people leaning on the right kind of held like, hey, DeSantis is the heir apparent to MAGA. He torches the media over in Florida. Move on over. And I think that's a fair thing to say at the time, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's very much so legislatively oriented. Like he's a military guy.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What's the task? Let me accomplish it. And for me, I like that.
Yeah.
Is it fun to have, someone like Donald Trump who's just like character?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be, but at the end of the day, this is a job. And so if I'm looking at a politician who says these particular things and not only says it, but then goes into office and does those things, I don't know. That's usually someone who does a good job in government.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I said my piece, but at the same time, I know the game.
Yeah.
The game is whose side are you on, even in the most granular of circumstance, and pitting yourself and finding the 5% difference between yourself and somebody else and making that 5% seem like 100%. Right. And just going all in and getting all this attention and it just becomes this whole stupid game. And for me, and I'm not giving away any secrets, I tell this to people all the time, 90 to 95% of my success has been because of Twitter. Not in, I had this tweet and it went viral and that's no, it's because I connected with this person and they connected to that person and it got me an opportunity to this. Like I went to DeSantis's re-election event in Florida, was there in the VIP with the donors, and then I got invited again to his inauguration. Was at the inauguration ball. Met all
I
these
remember seeing
people.
pictures and stuff from that on X.
Yeah.
And like that was dope. That was dope that you were there. Like, here's the thing. I'm not gonna lie. Since where you were 2 years ago, when I think it was maybe like a year or so into you blowing up on Twitter and really becoming a personality, to all the things that you've been involved in, I'm just watching this. I'm just like pumped every time I see you go to something else cool and badass. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, out of you absolutely deserve it with the hard work you've done. So I think it's freaking great. And I love seeing all the success and things that you're having. Sorry, had to jump in there.
No, I appreciate that that's why I say, like, I'm very mindful. I've always been mindful, and introspective. So I'm very mindful of people's behavior and why they act a particular way and reading the room. And I just see jumping into stuff like that as a losing situation.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I showed my support for DeSantis and I just let it be. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to work with someone who likes Trump more than DeSantis. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't care who you support. Vote for whoever you want. Do not care. But maybe we could work together. But if I get into a stupid argument that we'll forget about in the, 2 days later, if I just kept scrolling, like what's the point of all this?
That's the thing. I look at some things and I'm just like, I could comment or I could just continue going about my life.
Yeah, I will say
continue going about my life
because that mindset is not a large amount of Twitter. Well, actually, no, probably a larger amount of Twitter users than we think. But a lot of people use Twitter for honestly what I think it was originally meant for, but for shit posting. That's what it is, and for arguments and all that type of stuff. So when you use it in a mindful way, it can be a fantastic app, and it can be a fantastic app in a lot of ways. But when you use it in that way, you can, like you said, you can make all these connections. You can network all over the place, and it could bring you to great things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that's how I got on XXXY.
Yeah,
this is through Twitter.
Yeah,
it's such a good. That's how we got you on the show twice. Was through Twitter, just shooting a random message. It can be a beautiful thing.
It can be a beautiful thing. So that's why my strategy isn't. I don't argue with anybody. Like I have a rule. I don't engage in bad faith conversations with people. That's my rule. And if I do reply to you and I see where this is going, and sometimes people think they're slick, and they're like, Genuine question. No, it's
Yep.
not.
Yeah.
Like I know where this is going.
All right.
That's like, I respectfully disagree. No, you're
That,
about to say
or
something really
or like,
disrespectful.
I used to be a follower, or hey,
God.
fan here. Like
Yeah,
something like
those
Yeah.
are the best. I mean, it's
Yeah.
such a. I kind of have the one comment rule. I leave my comment and then I don't care what anyone says after. Like,
Yeah.
whatever I say, whatever
Essentially.
you say back, I'm not going to say anything back. I don't care.
Yeah. 99% of the time, that's basically me. I say my piece. I often mute stuff. I just don't. I just out of mind, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
But
Smart way.
yeah. To answer your question, I don't engage in all that stuff because I know that, like, you guys are. If people are watching, they're seeing it from, like, if you have a small account and you're just trying to build a little following and you're just bullshitting.
Mhm.
But for people like you and me, where we're trying to build something,
That's the goal.
right? The last thing you want to do is alienate yourself. That
Yeah.
seems so counterproductive.
Yeah.
Yet it happens all the time.
It's like, I don't care if you vote for Kamala right now. Come watch the show and maybe suggest or tell someone that you're a fan of to jump on the show. And if you want to argue with us, that's fine. We'll debate you and we'll have fun, but we'll try and keep it respectful and
No blood sports.
no blood
I
sports.
watch
don't
blood
love
sports, but I will not participate in blood sports.
Yes,
Right.
no, I don't like that type of stuff. I'd much rather be able to have a conversation and walk away later. And
Mhm.
here's the thing: if I genuinely disagree and there's a deal breaker, and maybe we end up not liking each other, fine. We don't have to work together again. But I don't have to
Yeah.
hate you. I don't have to sit there and we don't have to like go crazy and yelling matches while they make for good clips. They're not the best way to go about life.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and like I said, the most I was doing during that time was if I was seeing somebody like a hardcore, like, you're people that were like heavily influential and very much on one side or the other and bashing the other. I was kind of going
Mhm.
into being like, hey, stop that. If DeSantis wins, we're gonna need MAGA. If Trump wins, we're gonna need DeSantis supporters. Stop, like you said, stop alienating a group because you're trying to prove your point.
Mhm.
And there was a
Right.
lot of people that were getting very much, and that's kind of how they gain their popularity. And I get it. But I was getting a lot of flack for that in the comments. Like, oh, never go. And I was like, whatever. I'm not gonna. Again, I said
Pick
my
a
piece.
side.
Yeah.
Don't be, I am. It's the side, whatever. It's a Republican that wins. That's the side I'm cool. I said flat out, I'm cool with DeSantis. I'm cool with
Yes.
Trump. I'm cool with Vivek. Those were the
Stop
three. I
riding
was
the
right on.
fence.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if you would have given me friggin' whatchamacallit, Nikki Haley, I probably would have voted for Kamala. Because what's the
Nah, I wouldn't have voted for.
What's the
I would have
difference?
voted for
You would
third
have done
party.
the same shit. She would have done the same stuff. We would have still been going to war in Ukraine. We would have still been bombing Israel, maybe quicker with Nikki Haley. Okay. So I would have been drafted a lot quicker with Nikki Haley probably than with Kamala. So
And I do want to ask another question, because Alex touched on the rights divide. I want to
Mhm.
touch on the left's divide, because there are cracks happening in the left that I feel might be deeper than picking a candidate,
potentially,
like
yeah.
picking Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro for a particular reason. And like, there's multiple things that have been going on. Like you said, right now, especially the way that they're acting towards men in general, and right now, particularly black men, because they're getting it hard in the past 2 weeks.
Just kidding.
It's bad.
Ridiculous.
But these are going to be deeper, I feel like, than just whether or not a candidate is preferred. Yeah, some things are thrown around on the right, but when you're actually like forcefully alienating people, finger wagging, and doing these things, people take that more to heart when they do other things. So, what do you think
Yeah.
about divides that are happening on the left? Do you think they'll last at all in the future? I mean, and other types, things like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we just talked about the political realignment,
Yeah.
and many people, including myself,
Mhm.
either became independents or went over to the Republican side.
Mhm.
I know of politicians. Tulsi Gabbard just recently
Yes.
Yeah.
Came from- yep.
made it official that she's now a Republican. So there's an alignment that's happening, and that
Mhm.
in order for that alignment to happen, cracks have to be there.
Mhm.
And cracks have been going on for a number of years, whether it be prominent voices or whether it be just the average person who's following politics, where they start to switch sides. I have a lot of former Democrats who follow me. I have a lot of people who are Republicans today who voted for Obama in 2008.
Yes.
So, the cracks have been going on for some time. One of my good friends, Isaiah Carter,
Yes.
He
Yeah,
made it
Isaac.
official.
yeah.
Great follow on Twitter. Great
Yeah.
follow.
Oh yeah.
Love
He's
follow.
hardcore. He's
Yeah.
hardcore. But he's like a brother now. Like we were just talking on the phone earlier today.
Mhm.
But he today he voted for Trump, and he's like, I'm done. Like
Mhm.
I'm done with the Democrats. I see what's going on. And he's leaving the Democrats for the same reason I said I'm
Mhm.
done. It's
Yeah.
because they just became so extreme.
Yeah.
They became anti-liberal.
Mhm.
You know, I was always for free speech. You know, say how you feel, allowing people to live the life that they want to live,
Uh-huh.
and all these like traditional liberal values. And then we have these people coming in and saying you can't say this, being pro censorship, nothing is funny, and then all their ideas are just fantasies,
Yes.
right? We'll just get rid of the police and everything will be fine. What? What are you talking about?
And you ask
Like just
anybody in the inner city, and they're just like, no. And we have some more. Can we get good police, and can we get them in here? Like
right.
maybe train some of them and be better in here, but we need more because
Yeah.
I want to be able to let my kid go with his friends down to the park and not have to worry. Like people just want to live and be okay. And telling them no, there's going to be less protection, so that the inner cities could potentially get worse. They're looking,
Mhm.
going, no, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard in my life.
Right. You know, when polling comes out, and that's the narrative with the captured media
Mhm.
by leftists. The narrative is that racism is the biggest issue facing Black Americans, and that's the thing that they're more concerned with when going and voting.
Mhm.
When in reality, polling shows that either it's number one or number two. I think it's number two. Safety. Safety
Without a
is really
doubt.
important to them.
Yeah.
So it's when they're talking about safety, they're talking about crime. Is someone going to break into my house?
Mhm.
Is someone going to shoot at me? Why? Because a lot of Black people live in dangerous areas in this country. So yes, safety is important. Can we be safe? Is it possible to be safe?
No, because if you're safe, then you're not going to vote for Democrats to give you more stuff.
Well,
That's not allowed. It's not allowed,
well,
Adam, because
and I even question
you're all
if
just
they,
one demographic and you're the same exact monolithic thing. Didn't you know that?
but they don't give anything anyways. See, that's
Yeah, it is.
that's the trick.
If they were
Um,
given something, maybe.
maybe,
Maybe.
but when you are saying, and all right, I'll summarize it by this. I was telling someone today, the left talks about intersectionality,
Mhm.
and they talk about it in stupid ways. But there is an intersectionality when it comes to things, and when it comes from like politics these days, especially from the left, the intersectionality with class. Because I cannot tell you how when you look at something and it makes no sense, and then you're like, add class to it, like, oh, it makes sense now.
Yeah.
Every single time. So, an example, when Michelle Obama goes on stage and her primary concern is women's rights, when that really means is, can you get an abortion? That's
Mhm.
basically what it always comes. Anytime they talk
Yeah.
about reproductive rights, women's rights, it always comes to the same thing:
Yes.
abortion.
Yes.
So then she's saying, go to your men and tell them to go out and support Kamala so to protect your rights, and using all this manipulation and even advocating for the women to hide their votes if need
Yeah.
be. So she's doing all this, and essentially
Mad
what
about
she's telling women to become single issue voters
Mhm.
Mhm.
around abortion.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, that is such a luxury to be a single issue voter around abortion when you have all these other things that you should be concerned with.
Mhm.
And of course, the multimillionaire wife of a president would tell you to become a single issue voter
Yep.
because she's not worried about safety in Martha's Vineyard and
Yep.
wherever high value property that she has. She's not worried about those things. She's
I
not
feel like
worried about some illegal immigrant taking her,
Well,
tens
they'll
of
just
thousands
bust
of
them out of
dollars
the
for
area.
minutes
pitching
to Martha's
engagement.
Vineyard. For
Yeah, they'll
5
just
minutes
bust them out of
anyway.
the area real quick. It'll be
Yeah.
good. They'll wave them
We'll
off.
kick 'em out quicker. I feel like
Right.
that would be like my quiz at election time, though. What are you here to vote for? What? Not who. What? And if they
Right.
just say abortion, get out. They just say any single thing. If you are a single issue voter, I don't care if I agree with you. If it's like, I'm only voting for 2A, get out. Because there is so much more to voting for a candidate than just
Mhm.
one issue. Because you know what? They could sit there and give you all the abortion you want or carry all the guns you want. But then if they start to take away everything else, that single issue doesn't matter as much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my rant against that. So
I'm more like a 3-issue voter.
that's fine.
Yeah.
3 issues good. That's a
Yeah.
good round number, right? Like that's a good thing. What are your 3 issues? I want to hear them. So maybe I can help educate some of the people. Put me on the spot.
Immigration,
I like it.
um, protecting the protecting the economy for the working class, especially,
Mhm. Yep.
but improving the economic state. So I mean that's a very broad thing for me to
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
but it could be
Very
making
macro.
sure that our jobs aren't shipped overseas, making
Mhm.
sure that people aren't automatically being replaced by AI.
Yep.
Just things of that nature. If that's a concern, I'm all for that. And the third thing is protecting children,
I
um,
like it.
and especially protecting children from mutilation. I think it is a heinous act
Mhm.
to allow this to happen in America, and bringing back basically our modern form of lobotomy, trying to,
It's disgusting.
permanently alter children to correct
Yep.
their behavior,
Yep.
or really to correct their behavior for what they quote unquote want. And so people understand, I was watching this thing about lobotomies, actually just yesterday. People volunteered for lobotomies
Yep.
Oh yeah.
because they thought this was the cure for their
Mhm.
issue.
Wasn't it
Mhm.
JFK's child that they gave a lobotomy, if I'm not correct? It was one of JFK's children. It was one of the president's
Uh,
children that when the lobotomies were all the craze, they gave it to them
shoot.
because they were like autistic or something like that, and they thought they could cure with the lobotomy. I forget which president it is.
Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. arranged a lobotomy for his daughter, Rosemary Kennedy, in
Yes,
1941.
thank you.
His
Yeah,
own
it
Yeah,
was
patient.
Mr.
Kennedy.
Rosemary. There you
Yep.
go. So so it's crazy that, like you said, they signed up for these things. And this is something that, God, if I remember correctly, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, people were looking at third world nations that would even Middle Eastern countries that would genital mutilate their women, and we're going like, that's barbaric. They're the worst. They're savages. And now here we are in the West, the modernized and big West, great West, encouraging our youth to get their genitals mutilated. Like, it is a bizarre thing. So,
And
Adam,
now they'll
go for
probably say, well, we shouldn't criticize their culture.
it. No, no,
No
exactly.
cultures are better than others.
No, there's no cultures better. So, Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your
Yep.
prediction for the 2024 general election?
The more Kamala Harris talks, the worse she does.
So, if she goes on Rogan, is it going to be a 50
She's
state
not.
landslide?
It's not happening. She's not going on
Oh,
Rogan.
she's not going on Rogan.
She's not
I
going
mean,
on Rogan.
I
JD
want her
Vance
to
is
go
going
on
on Rogan.
Wait, is JD going on Rogan?
Yeah, JD's going on
Oh, sick. I didn't see that.
tomorrow. I
Let's
think.
go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be the weirdest episode ever.
No, yeah, of course.
See what I did there?
I'm sorry.
All
Go ahead, Adam.
So we've
Yeah.
had you here for a little bit. We appreciate all your time. I want to give you a chance because you have a new book coming up.
website.
There is a secret to the title, so I'm not going to try and pry that out of you. But I
Mhm.
want to hear. Give us a little bit about your new book.
Yeah. So the book, I'm basically in the middle of it as we speak. I'm hoping to be done writing it by New Year. That's the plan.
Okay.
But it's about the biggest issue, which actually I think is facing not just America but the West, and it is childhood abandonment and family separation.
Mm-hmm.
So the book is talking about this, but the way I'm approaching it is different. Granted, I don't read every book on the topic, but I imagine that it's different because of how I'm approaching it. For one, this is very child centered. Um, and I think it needs to be child centered because we're always seeing it from the adult perspective. And I'm the adult who's writing it, but I'm giving you my story as a child who's abandoned by his father.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving stories so people understand what it's like. I'm giving you the mental state that I went through. I'm talking about very harsh things.
Yeah.
I'm talking about struggling with suicide, suicidal thoughts throughout most of my life. I'm
Mhm.
talking about being put into a mental institution when I was a child and how that impacted me. So it's a very open and honest book. Meanwhile, it is mixed in with cultural criticisms and pointing out the flaws of many modern parents. Talking about these things, like I wrote an article talking about how we always criticize Gen Z. Oh, look at all these crazy Gen Zs. And my response was, well, who raised them?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, you raised these
And that
kids.
generation doesn't want to hear that.
No,
They
right?
always take offensive to that. Take offense to that. 100%.
I remember one time I said that if my son goes out into the world and does terrible things, I am responsible for that.
Mhm.
And that's
I'm
the way it
partly
used to be,
responsible.
right? And that's the way it
Right.
used to be when it was back when it was, I am Alex of House Cuesta because the house is what my name represents. So anything
Mhm.
I did brings shame upon my whole entire family lineage and is
Right.
now their responsibility. Because the thing was, if you did something wrong, it didn't matter how old you were, they would go back to whatever the living patriarch or matriarch is and go, why is your house doing this? And it's kind of in that similar sense of what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you're an adult, the things that you do, you're responsible for it.
Yeah.
If you commit a crime, you go to jail. But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is socially, I let him down.
Mhm.
Like I would carry that guilt. I didn't do the thing, so he understood. I didn't discipline him. I didn't whatever it might be, but I take ownership over where I failed him. And in so many situations, we got too many parents who want to be their kid's friend.
Yep.
And they remove their authority. Like I've seen it so many times where you see that 2-year-old kid who talks back and they think it's cute.
Ooh.
Oh, they're a little sassy. Well, it's not cute in 10 years,
Nope.
Exactly.
Exactly.
right? And so you need to nip that in the bud right now. That
Mhm.
shit ain't cute.
Nope.
Like, stop it. And and that's how I understood, when I was becoming a father, like I need to make sure I am on top of him. I need to be consistent with him. I need to always talk to him.
Mhm.
I've talked about this before about spanking. I was spanked as a kid, but I hated getting spanked as a kid because I felt it was unnecessary.
Mhm.
I already felt bad. Now you're going to hit me, you know? And so, he was small, you hit his hand or you pop his butt, and that's considered acceptable. Here I am, almost 6 foot tall, and I'm just popping the butt of a small child.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, something about this doesn't feel right. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I just stopped. I didn't tell him, hey, I'm never going to touch you again. I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instead of doing that, I talked to him.
Mhm.
And if he had a punishment, I took away his stuff. I did something. I didn't let him slide. I did
Mhm.
something, but I just talked to him. If I was disappointed, I scolded him and I told him how disappointed I was. And all I needed to do was do that, and he would cry and he
Mhm.
would get it. And he
Mhm.
didn't do it again. And so it's stuff like that where we have to be extremely mindful of how we're interacting with our kids. We have to want to do these things. I'm not a perfect parent.
No one
There
is.
are no perfect parents.
Yes. Yeah.
But I believe the difference between a good parent and a bad parent is that you care if you're a good parent. That's the difference. You care. And if you care that you're a good parent, you'll change your behavior where you see you're going down the bad path
Absolutely.
or when something isn't working
Yeah.
or you tried something and it didn't work and then you ask your friends or you go online and you're like what's a better way of me approaching it? That's what good parents do.
Mhm.
Bad parents do whatever the hell they want and think that it's just going to work out. It'll be fine. It just whatever. And then when their kids grow up, you go on Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil has, when he was on, he have these teenagers come on.
Yeah.
And I have a lot, just so you know, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Phil because I learned a lot watching his show. You watch enough of his shows, you get the same type of people. They're from different parts of the country,
See
but
patterns and why
it's the
going wrong.
same pattern.
Yep. Yep.
And it would be my teenager is out of control, or
Mhm.
it'll be maybe they're 19 now.
Yeah.
They're out of control. They're doing drugs and having sex and all types of stuff. And then they ask, when did this happen? Oh, when they turn 12, 13, that's when this happened. And then Dr. Phil's like, no, it's not. And then he goes through the timeline. When they were 4, they did this.
Yep.
When they were 5, they did this. What did you do when that happened? Nothing.
Yep.
Mhm.
What are you doing? And then they're looking at their kid hooked on drugs. Hey, by the way, your child is hooked on drugs. Where are they getting money from?
Yep.
Oh, we give it to them.
You're
But you're
enabling.
enabling them.
Yes.
Like, so this is a family issue. This is not, oh, my kid's a drug addict just out of nowhere for no reason.
Mhm.
Like, human beings don't just sporadically do extreme behaviors for zero reason. There's a cause. Something happened. So why did it happen?
Yeah.
And so many times I've written about children growing up in separate homes and family separation. I've
Mhm.
gotten over the years, I want to say like a handful of emails from people who worked either in criminal justice or who worked in juvie. And the ones who worked in juvie say 99% of the kids here come from broken homes where there are no parents or one parent.
Yep.
But they're not coming from 2-family homes.
Mhm.
And if someone told you that 99% of the time, when it's this circumstance, it results into this, or it's a higher likely to result into this, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds like a problem. If we said 99% of the time, the people who get lung cancer get it from smoking, we say that this is an emergency. We need to make sure people don't smoke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of an emergency, but we don't see it like an emergency. We
No.
have a cultural problem, and we've become so individualistic and so parent focused. Not even parent focused, adult focused. We've become
Mhm.
so adult focused that we don't fully grasp how our behavior affects our kids.
Agreed.
And the last thing I'll say is divorce.
Yeah.
Divorce and all these different narratives that come from the culture of divorce, where if I'm not happy, they won't be happy. It's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works.
It's now.
Exactly.
That's what you tell yourself because you know you're about to tear apart your child's life.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So you feel better about your decision. Your child doesn't care if mommy is depressed one day because of whatever reason. Figure that shit out. That's between you two, the
Adult
adults,
stuff. Yes.
and figure it out. But I'm sure your child doesn't want to see another strange man come into the house and increase their likeliness of being touched by a tremendous amount. The statistics
Mhm.
are staggering.
Mhm.
They don't want that.
No.
They want their father.
Hmm.
But you want to go and get on the streets and chase this and chase that and chase happiness,
Mhm.
and everybody comes second to you. And this is the culture of selfishness within parenting and the divorce. So I don't know about you guys. I've met people who've gotten divorced, and every person who gets a divorce says, no, but mine is different.
Of course.
Always.
Of course.
Always. Always.
Adam, I agree with you, but my divorce is different. We
Yeah.
had to. Like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, yeah,
of
of course. You couldn't have worked it out,
Mhm.
right? So I can't tell you how many of them I've heard their stories. And I'm like, y'all could have resolved that.
Mhm.
No. We did. We.
You weren't there at the time. You don't understand.
And
Those
you, know,
No,
you
no.
said something that I think is really big, and I think people need to switch their mindset, because you said that it's all about their happiness, and
Right.
you should never, ever, ever chase happiness, because happiness is fleeting.
Uh-huh.
Happiness will go
Short-term
away,
emotion.
and if you're chasing happiness, you will never be happy. You
Mhm.
need to be satisfied. You need to be content, because if you are satisfied with your
Content,
life,
not contempt.
content, not
Content, not
you need to be content. Sorry.
There you go.
You are satisfied and content in wherever you are in your life, whether that is being in your marriage, having your kids. If you have that, then you're not going to go chasing after the next shiny thing. You will see that shiny thing and go, yeah, it's pretty nice. I'm really happy with what I have. And you know what? If you want to get shiny thing, it's not going to be, well, I need to go get it. It's going to be, what can I do to elevate me and my family to wherever I want to be? Because if you're looking and going, that's a ball and chain with my wife and kids, or my husband, I can't get there because they're there, then that's the problem. Where instead, like, I would love for this show to take off. I would love for it to be riches. But if that means that this show going somewhere would mean my wife and kids would be somewhere else and have to be left behind, I'll give up everything that this show ever comes with. I will never do this show again if it means that my wife and kids would ever have to be left behind in any sort of way.
Yeah.
I want them with me. If we're going to be, I'm rich, they're rich. If I'm going to be extremely happy, I want them to be happy with me.
Yeah. And when you get to that point of like straight satisfaction, you're actually building something and you have a good foundation, you just find happiness. It ends up just like kind of coming to you. Like there are moments where you just like opportunity knocks and you can go and actually just have that not fleeting, but the short term of just adrenaline spike, dopamine spike kind of stuff. And one of the things you said, Adam, is that, we're adult focused and we are adult focused, but we kind of treat them as children nowadays.
Yeah, we
like
do.
it's a very childish adult focusing, because I cannot stand when people say that they're adulting. No, you are of that age. You're just doing what you have to do. And that's the thing. When you have a kid and people don't understand the responsibility of actually rearing another human to become a good member of the society, not only that, to become something that their life is not in a bad spot because of their parents not actually looking after them the way that they should be.
And before you jump in real quick, I just want to piggyback one last time when you said, you have to care to be a good parent. And I am in a job right now, my 9 to 5. I'm a driving instructor. I said it before, but I'm dealing with young kids, 16, early 20s and things like that. And I've heard plenty of kids that are like, I don't know if I want to have a kid. It's terrifying. And the thing I say to them is just try. When you're a parent, if you are giving an effort, if you are trying, then you will probably be a good parent. Because if you're trying to do something well, like you said, you're caring about having a successful outcome. And that successful outcome is your child being a good member of society and, having an upstanding, good foundation. And that's why I tell them, like, number one, don't be scared of it because no one's ready. No one's ready. Even if you want to have kids, you're not ready. But number two, as long as you're trying, you're going to make mistakes and your kids are going to watch you make that mistake. But then if they're seeing you try to make it better, and if they're still seeing you give an effort, and don't get me wrong, it is hard. My 6 and 4-year-old drive me crazy, get me mad all the time. But is there anything that I wouldn't do for those two? Absolutely not. Because just waking up every day and them waking up happy and healthy as well, my day started well. All 4 members of my family wake up and they're all happy and healthy. My day's already good. Everything else is house money. So that's just something that I think people need to realize. Like you said, care, just try. If anyone's sitting here right now watching this and they had a terrible night with their kids, wake up the next day and still try. Do your best. Because if you do your best, the best parents I've ever talked to, my parents are amazing. Did my parents have every single answer, do everything right? No. But you know what, though? I know both of them sacrifice. And as I get older now, I realize how much they sacrifice for my brother over there, my sister, for us to be happy and never to go without. They tried their asses off to make us good people. And unfortunately, they made David and myself, but they did try. But overall, that's kind of where it is. And I can't wait to read this book because I remember hearing partially about your life in our last conversation 2 years ago, because you did talk about, your situation growing up and things like that. You didn't go, obviously we only had like an hour and change, so you didn't go into full detail, but I'm excited to read your book because your story is, another inspiration. We feel we've talked to a bunch of people and there's a lot of people that are inspirational, and the fact that you're willing to put that into paper, and it has to be hard to consistently relive some of the things that you went through. And putting it on paper, I've always found when you write something, it makes it more real, right? Yeah. Once you put it on paper and now you're going to release it to the world, number one, you were brave enough as it is 3 years ago, fully coming out on Twitter and sharing your beliefs. And now it's taking another brave step to kind of let people know the things that you went through and who you are and why you became who you are. But Adam, it's freaking awesome. I can't wait for it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm estimating that the release will be between March and April
Okay.
next year. Um, and I think my biggest goal, well, for one, just so you guys understand, this is not political. So
No, it
it's
didn't sound like it was.
No, it doesn't sound like it at all.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
yeah, and it's not. I'm not talking about my race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about politics. None of that stuff. I
Well,
do
something that
talk
affects
about
everyone. Yeah.
yeah, right. It can go anywhere. The
Yeah,
only
your
thing I
experience goes over race, right? Like your
Yeah.
experience could be it happened to anyone, any race, anywhere.
exactly, and especially from the because remember, I'm trying to make this child focus.
Yes.
Children don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican.
No,
Mhm.
they don't know what the hell that is.
They don't care. It's at the very essence. I wanted my father,
Mhm.
and I had a complicated relationship with my father, and a disappointing relationship with my father. And actually, even just in the process of writing this, I had a long conversation with my mom, and like clarifying some things that I remember,
Yeah.
and asking her about certain things. Um, and it's been very interesting to kind of go down memory lane and kind of put pen to paper. But it's a like the one chapter I'm working on, I realize like part of this book is a parenting book.
Which is
you
great.
know?
We
Yeah.
need more good people with good ideas
Well,
giving
and-
those out.
And the thing is like you said, it's child focused. When you come from a child focused point, and like this is what you actually live through, you could
Mhm.
see what actually affects a child.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that when any parent can learn from that, when you can actually read and hear about what actually affects a child and what they're going to do in their life, and children watch their parents. So it's not what you say, it's what you do. Certain things, but yeah, I'm sorry. Continue.
No. That's exactly it. And I think I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I think this would
Shoot
be
it.
Shoot it
one of
away.
the-
Yeah,
Shoot it, brother.
you
All right.
deserve it.
I think this would be one of the most unique books that will be out there in this sphere because one, it's a topic that people touch the very surface of it. Two, it's a topic that most kids who go through the circumstance do not talk about.
No.
They just don't.
I used to work
Uh,
at a place called the Children's Home of Poughkeepsie, and it was essentially the last stop for a lot of kids that were pins, persons in need of supervision, potential juvenile delinquent candidates, and it was kind of the last stop. So I had 2 years of experience with kind of individuals in a similar situation to your story. So
Yeah.
obviously I didn't live through it, but I have seen probably something similar to what I'm going to read in your book.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, and wait till you learn the title. Um, but you'll understand when I show you guys the title.
Gotcha.
When it comes soon. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's I think it would be incredibly unique. There's lots of storytelling. It's very deep and emotional. My writing has gotten better, especially I
You
write
write
all the
the
time,
Yeah.
Yeah, constantly.
and so like there is a if you read my first book, people liked it, so it's
Mhm.
not like oh it was bad. People
Yeah.
liked it, but my writing style has evolved. I'm very I use a lot of analogies
Mhm.
and I use a lot of imagery
Mhm.
as I'm
Nice.
writing. So, it's something where it's like it hits you differently because of how I'm saying it. It's not
Mhm.
uh this was bad and I felt this way.
It's not cut
It's
and dry. It's
it's not cut and dry. It's
pulling you
it's
through
much
something. Yeah.
right. It's pulling you through something. At times it's a little bit poetic.
Mhm.
Well, and
Sometimes I rein it in.
that's how you get people to feel what you're feeling, right? Like you
Yeah,
sit there and you pull in your gut and go, what would make this make somebody feel what I'm trying to say right now? And a good way to do it is through an analogy that everyone can understand, is through an image that everyone can easily visualize. And bringing
right,
that out is actually difficult in writing, right? But it
right.
also makes for a very good read because that's where you get the emotional touching side of it. It's not just writing, well, that made me sad. It's what happened. What would be the equivalent to what I'm telling you right now?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And my wife, she, as I'm writing, she reads it, and depending on the chapter, she comes out and she wants to like talk about it, like about the topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, I never thought about that. And she wants to talk about it. Or if it's something deep and personal when I was a kid, she's like, it's good, but I don't like it. Because she doesn't like hearing about me as a
Yeah.
kid,
Yeah.
Suffering
Hmm.
the way that I did. There's a chapter that I finished talking about coming to Christ.
Hmm.
But it's for a particular reason from an abandoned child's standpoint, because it's bad enough when my father wasn't there, but it's even worse when you think that God has left you too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And going throughout my life trying to figure out, why do I feel so alone? Why do I feel rejected? And giving basically like my come to Christ story, um, and leading in that direction. So
Hmm.
it's for a particular reason, because I figure someone I want this book to be in the hands of anyone. I want it to be in schools. I want it to
Yeah.
be in parents' hands. I want it to be in the hands of a kid who went through my circumstance, who felt alone, right? And if they come to that chapter and they felt the same way about, there is no God, why would God let me go through this, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And then they read this and they're like, oh man, you know, maybe it changes their mind. So I think it's a critical book, but it's not harsh just to be harsh. It's a critical book because we're trying to save children.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I made it out of it, but it took me decades to make it out of it. And I
Hmm.
struggled with all of these things, and I'm not alone. But it's just that most of us don't talk about it. And you just see the surface level where we smile in your face, but when we go home, we're struggling
Hmm.
Yeah.
and we're unsure. Am I doing this right? Am I okay? And some of us take our lives. And,
Hmm.
and these are real things that we are faced with. That's why I wanted to make sure there's a chapter about suicide, so people
Yeah.
understand the mindset of someone who's considering suicide and
Hmm.
what I went through in these different stories. So homelessness, I have a chapter talking about homelessness. So you have all these very like tough things within this book, a lot of storytelling, and the way that I write, it's a smooth read. It's not a hard read,
Yeah.
um, and it'll be emotional for people too.
So I'm excited, and I want you to definitely let us know when that
Yeah,
is out, or like coming out, when you're announcing
Hmm.
things, because we absolutely want to give it a shout out here. We want
yeah,
to let as many people know in our audience as well to go pick it up, because I'm excited. I already am going to figure out a spot back here to put it up when I get it. And I'm pumped for it. And Adam, thank you so much for jumping on, man, and giving
Yes.
us a ton of your time. We appreciate. Always enjoy talking to you, man.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
So once again, go find Adam on X and on IG at wrong_speak. You want to go there. You could see all of his ideas, definitely, especially on X. Adam's a fantastic follow on X.
Go to his
Um,
website,
he's
adambcoleman.com.
AdamBColeman.com. And you can also go to wrongspeak.net. This is all the hands that Adam has his hands in, that he has been doing so much. On WrongSpeak, you have a great group of contributors and writers that are on WrongSpeak as well. And also, once again, www.xx.xyathletics.com/Adam. If you want to go get some apparel from XXXY, I encourage everyone to do that. Once again, we're Alex and David, Alex Quest the show. If you liked what you saw today, please, if you're on X, give us a follow and repost over there. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a share and a follow. And on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe. And if you're watching on X, don't mind migrating over to YouTube and give us
Yeah.
a subscription over there, because that always helps and we appreciate that all. So everyone, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you all.